Hey everyone, it's Jennifer from Rooted in the Rock, and I've got something dropping from the travel branch right now. Hey everyone, welcome to Rooted in the Rock. I'm so glad you're here. Now today I want to talk about 10 things to be aware of as a Christian family going to Disney. Okay, I say Disney because some of these things are Disney World, some of them are Disneyland, and some of them are both. Okay, but before that, let me just remind you to like the video if it was helpful, if it was useful, or if you just generally liked it or found it entertaining, and subscribe so that you can get the videos when they come out. I always forget to say it. I always put it on the slide at the end. I always try to put something funny with it too and afterwards. So I hope you guys usually stay around for that. Now, I'm actually redoing this video because I just went almost entirely through the whole thing with it on photo instead of video. So, yeah. Welcome to my world. And also, sorry about the lateness. Normally this would have been posted like this morning or this afternoon. However, we are getting our basement finished. The plumbers were here and there was all this banging around right underneath me. But it's fantastic because when it's finished, I will have my own room for Rooted in the Rock stuff, Rooted in the Rock work and videos and all the things. So I won't be in the spare room anymore. It's going to be amazing. And it's going to look great. I can work on how things look. I'm not worried about it right now, but I will have my own space. So that's exciting. So now 10 things, and I'm going to try to keep it short. Now that this is my second time through it, I'm going to try to keep this short. 10 things to be aware of as a Christian family going to Disney. Now, number one is the one that everybody thinks of first, is Haunted Mansion. Okay? Haunted Mansion, it's, some families do scary or not scary or whatever. Some Christian families avoid ghost things and creepy things. So as a Christian family going to Disney, especially if you've never been, depending on how old your kids are and whether or not they get scared of certain things, that might not be your cup of tea. So just be aware of that. It is, though, if you ever look at the history of Haunted Mansion and how they did certain things, which I always find that kind of thing fascinating. I love to see and know how things work, and I love to make things work in awesome ways. It's just, so I kind of geek out about that kind of thing, but there are some really amazing mechanical tricks and things that they use in the ride. So I've been on it. It's been a very, very, very long time because ghosts and things like that are not my cup of tea. I don't like that kind of thing at all. So I generally don't go on there. So just be aware of that. It is a Disney staple. They have one in Magic Kingdom, they have one in Disneyland, and they have their own version also in Disneyland Paris. I'm not sure about Tokyo and Shanghai. I don't know. But it is a Disney staple and a very classic. Number two is Memento Mori. Now, Memento Mori is basically the Haunted Mansion gift shop. It is right in front of Haunted Mansion. It's right off of that pathway between Liberty Square and like the Tangled Bathrooms in Fantasyland. It's like in between there. So if your kids are like, oh, what's in that shop? Depending on your family. Now, that, I think, Memento Mori probably has a little more of the creep factor than even the ride. They've got a lot of like gifts and things. There's like, I think it's a picture that changes, depending on you and your family, and if you do ghost stuff or not ghost stuff or whatever, might want to just be aware, might want to avoid that if you have a little one that gets scared. You know what I'm saying? It just depends on you and your family. Okay? So that is the Haunted Mansion gift shop. Just be aware of that. Okay, number three is, now please hear me out, okay? Number three is Pride Month, okay? June is Pride Month, and they have parades and all kinds of things at Disney during this time. Now, the thing is, June is like prime summer vacation from school time. And I actually know people, I've heard stories from friends who went, had no idea it was Pride Month, had no idea that stuff was going on, and they had to leave. Now, here's the thing. The discussion is not about whether things are right or wrong. We're not going to go there, not getting into that can of worms. However, as a Christian family, there are certain topics, even if you're not a Christian family, there are certain topics, we're talking about little kids here, and there are certain things that are developmentally appropriate. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm a teacher, I've had child development classes, and there are certain things that are developmentally appropriate at different ages. So, and those of us, that are families, we talk to our kids, you may not have had that conversation with your kids yet, okay, depending on how old they are. And, we don't want to fuel confusion for the littles. You know what I'm saying? It needs to be at an appropriate time when they can actually, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, that's a whole nother can of worms. However, as a Christian family, be aware, June is Pride Month. I've had friends that went, they had no idea. And it's not that Disney is doing certain things, but it's the people around. There were things happening and people dressed in certain ways that were, a lot of Christian families dress more conservatively. And so, they were not prepared for seeing certain things. And then you have your kids asking questions. And, I like to, we've done it like organically, like we've talked about things as they've come up and as they've aged into it. However, I like having those conversations at home or in private, because then I can, talk with my child and ask questions. But out in public, it's not comfortable for you. It's not comfortable for your kids. And, you're on vacation. You're out there to have fun, not to have difficult conversations. You know what I'm saying? So if you have not had any of that kind of conversation with your kids, that can be a really stressful moment and totally ruin your vacation. It'll be memorable. But you know what I'm saying? So just be aware. June is Pride Month. And, if you have not had those conversations, if your kids have not seen those kinds of things, it might be confusing. It might, you know what I'm saying? Like, that is something I believe that needs to be introduced in a more controlled way, personally. And, just as a Christian, okay? And along with that, number 4 is Pride merch. Now, Pride merch is all year round. Now, nothing wrong with Pride merch for those that want to buy Pride merch. But what we ran into as a Christian family, so my daughter, when she was my youngest, when she was even younger, she loves unicorns and rainbows. And so she saw, I didn't even think about it, because we see stuff all the time. I didn't even think about it, and she saw this, this rack of rainbow stuff, and she was like, "Oh, rainbows!" And I was like, "Oh, honey, no," because hear me out. That particular merchandise is saying a specific thing, and so yes, you can love rainbows, and there are other things with regular rainbows. It's confusing, but that particular brand, that merchandise means a particular thing. And so it could be very uncomfortable for, a kid who loves rainbows or whatever, if, "Oh, I love rainbows," and then you have to explain, but not just the explaining, but if they want to buy something, and if you're not aware, that's Pride merchandise, you could get some uncomfortable, interactions with other people, assuming it means a certain thing when it really doesn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, it could be, just be aware. There is Pride merchandise, and if you have a kid that likes rainbows, just be prepared for, whatever it is you want to tell them, or have that conversation ahead of time. We're just like, "Oops, not that kind of rainbow, honey." And she's like, "Oh, okay." Like, we've had the conversation, like, it's, anyway. But just be aware, sometimes it's just a side of a rack. Sometimes it's like a whole display. It depends on what time of year. Like in June during Pride Month, there's a lot more of it. So it just depends. But just be aware of that. It is there. Like I've said before, Disney is not a Christian company. It's for everybody. So there's stuff for everybody there. So, it's not like everywhere, but there's a lot of it. So just be aware. it's there. And if you have rainbow loving kiddos, just be aware of that. Because I don't care who you are. No young child needs that kind of confusion and interaction if that is not the case. And just don't go there. All right, number 5. I probably explained it better the first time. I'm sorry. Number 5 is Halloween. Now, some Christian families, do Halloween. Some Christian families don't. It varies, like with denominations and things like that. It varies among people. So if you are a Christian family that doesn't really do Halloween, just be aware that around in the fall, Disney does Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, I believe is what it's called. It's one of those after hours parties. But there's decorations in the park and there's merchandise themed to it. There's all kinds of stuff. All the Nightmare Before Christmas stuff comes out. So if Jack Skelton, isn't that his name? Jack Skelton? Anyway, there's that merchandise everywhere. And so if that bothers you, that might be something you might want to be aware of, that, that time of year. There's the stuff. Now, you don't have to buy the ticket to the party. I don't remember, though. I'd have to check. I don't remember if they do the parade during the day as well, or if it's just during the party. I'm not sure. I did see a video of the parade, and there was some kind of creepy stuff in the parade, which I didn't care for, but I have friends that love it. So, like I said, it's just individually. It just depends on what you like, You go to Disney to have a vacation, have fun, and if there's things that that you can just go at a different time and avoid things that would make it not so fun for you, then, plan it for when would be best for you. You know what I'm saying? Just be aware of it. So, number 6 is Fantasmic. Now, Fantasmic is the show at Hollywood Studios. It's a really great show. However, if you are a Christian family, there might be some things in it that bother you. There's a lot of, the villain is, I want to say it's Maleficent. Anyway, but she has the cauldron, she does the spells, she turns into the scary looking dragon. There's a big snake. Okay, there's this huge, it's like a puppet, but it's like, and you're far away from it, but still, it's this huge, and the eyes light up, and dude, it is creepy. It is creepy. So if you have littles, it might be a little scary, okay? If I was a kid and I watched that show, it would have scared me. Seriously, I'm sorry, I was scared of a lot of things. But I know if I were a little one, that would have given me nightmares, okay? But, my husband wouldn't have bothered him at all. So it just depends on who, you're personal. But, there's that. There's a whole section of the show that does the clips of the villains, and it kind of celebrates the villains. It's kind of popular right now. So just be aware. It's a really great show, and they have the princesses and Sorcerer Mickey, but some Christian families wouldn't agree even with Sorcerer Mickey. Like I said, it varies people to people what they feel is okay and what they don't. So just be aware, Fantasmic has a lot of that. There's a good bit of that in it. And I did take video when we're there, so I'm going to try to hopefully I've got some of that in there. But it is a really great show. So it depends. Just be aware that there's some of that stuff in it, okay? All right, number 7 is Doctor Strange, Mysteries of the Mystic Arts. And it's a little show. This one is in California at the Avengers campus. That is at California Adventure, the California Adventure Park. They have the Avengers campus, which is awesome, by the way. But Doctor Strange, in general, if you're a Christian family and Marvel, then you already know if you're okay with Doctor Strange or not. But a lot of Christian families are not okay with the mystic arts and sorcery and things like that. So there is a little show on Avengers campus. There's this little area. It's really pretty. They've got the lanterns hanging and the globe thing, and it lights up, and it's real pretty, and it's, it's really neat. But he does this little show. And actually, it was funny. So there is video of this online. You can watch the whole thing. If you're not sure if that would be okay for your kids or not, just watch it. It's a real simple, it's cute, but he does incantations and things. So for some Christians that might bother them, and that might not be their cup of tea. So, but I can tell you, some of the tricks though is so funny. If you're an older person like my age and above, if you've seen many of the classic magic shows, there were some of the things he did that was like, oh my gosh, that's a classic magic show trick. So it's kind of like a little combination show. It's really cute. But, I don't know. It was okay. But anyway, just be aware of that depending on what is okay for you and what is not. Now I spent a lot of time that one day we spent a lot of time at Avengers Campus, and honestly, I never saw the show. I watched a video of it, but I had never actually gotten to see it myself. It just never happened to be going when we were there. So you could totally be in the area and not even see it. But your kids might be like, "What's going on over there?" And if that's what it is and you're not wanting to do that, then, just be aware of it. That's what it is. Okay. Number 8, Epcot drinking on weekends. Well, Epcot drinking in general, really, but Epcot drinking on weekends. So Christian families, now alcohol is legal and, whatever. But among Christians and Christian families, some people are okay with alcohol. Some people are kind of in the middle. And then some people are like, no alcohol at all. Now, at our church specifically, they preach against, alcohol whatsoever. And, some of that too is if there's someone in your family or alcoholism is like a real thing, and it's hard. It's hard. And so if you have alcoholics in your family, or it runs in your family, or you're a recovering alcoholic, you might want to be aware that Epcot might not be the best place for you to be on the weekend because drinking around the world is a big thing in Epcot. And we have been there on the weekend where there was a lot of drinking going on, and we just didn't our kids even noticed, that guy's acting why are these people acting funny? And it's like, well, they've had a few. But, so of course my husband and I, we can recognize it, but the kids even noticed. So, we're like, okay, so since then we've just kind of avoided Epcot on the weekends just because that's not our thing. Okay. But, it just depends. And if you have someone in your group who is a recovering alcoholic or that's an issue, why put them, that's just going to make their life misery. Why put them in the middle of all of that, right? So just don't. Because it's hard, anyway. So just be aware that on the weekends, there's a little bit more, the alcohol is always there at Epcot. However, the level kind of goes up on the weekend. So just be aware of that. And number 9 is drinks at restaurants. So all of the Disney restaurants have, most of them have, their own set of drinks, and a lot of them have their own special drinks that you can only get at that restaurant. But they also have mocktails. So they have some really great, fun, colorful, delicious drinks that don't have any alcohol. However, I do know, so, obviously, don't be offended if you go in a restaurant and they're serving alcohol. It's legal, and that's what a lot of people like, a drink with their dinner or whatever. That's not the point of the conversation. But the point of the conversation is, be aware they have them at all the restaurants. And a lot of times your kids will look at the menu and be like, "Ooh, that's pretty. I want one of those." And you're like, "No, honey, that's an alcoholic drink." Well, legally, you can't have that. But there are also mocktails, which are fun drinks that, don't. And there are some, I've heard some Christians talk about how that's not even okay, because that's just a training ground for starting to drink or whatever. And if you believe that, then avoid those. But just be aware too, just be aware that they exist. And so you can decide if that's okay for you, then yay. And if it's not okay for you, then might want to make other plans, eating wise. Okay. Most of the table service restaurants have, that kind of thing. So just, you can, like I said before, on the app, you can always look on the app and look at the menu ahead of time. Or you can look on the website too and get to it that way. But you can look at the menu and see what is there before you even go. So you can look and see if that's a place you want to be or not. But they're there. So just so you know, be aware, depending on what is okay for you. Okay, number 10. Some people might get mad at me. Number 10 is Mr. Toad's. I can hear you groaning across the internet, okay? Some of you. Now listen, okay, hear me out. So in California at Disneyland, there is an I believe Mr. Toad's is an OG ride, isn't it? It's an original ride. So Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Now, the thing with Mr. Toad's is Here's the basic nutshell. Mr. Toad is terrible driver, whatever. I don't remember what exactly it is he does wrong. But anyway, he gets in a car wreck, dies, gets judged, and goes to hell. So the end of the ride, the way that Walt Disney designed a lot of the rides was you become the character and you're in the story, right? So in Mr. Toad's, you're, Mr. Toad in the car, and you get in a wreck, you get judged, and you go to hell. And they heat up the room and everything. Seriously. So the youngest and I stayed out because I knew that would freak her out. And my oldest, because she'll ride anything once, but she was like, I never want to ride that again. She did not like it at all. And oops, sorry, I think I whacked the microphone. If I were little, I was like my youngest, where I was like kind of scared of everything, and that would have like given me nightmares. But it's, as Christians, we believe hell is real. If you don't know Jesus, if you haven't asked Jesus to come into your heart and take over your life, if you are not a believer, then when you die, if your name is not written in that book up there, then you're going to get sent to hell. I mean, it's a real thing. However, I don't accept, this one is kind of, I don't know that I find that entertaining. I don't want to get judged and go to, you know what I'm saying? So just be aware that is a classic ride. If you open up a conversation online, you'll find tons of people that would argue against it. Oh, it's classic. You shouldn't get rid of it. You have to, whatever. I'm not campaigning to get rid of it. I'm just saying, if you are a Christian family, just be aware if you have younger ones that might get frightened. Be aware that's what happens, okay? And if you are a Christian that doesn't take kindly to being put in that kind of a story, be aware, okay? So that is the basic story of Mr. Toads, okay? So that's all of them. Number 1, Haunted Mansion. Number 2, Memento Mori is the Haunted Mansion gift shop. Number 3 is Pride Month. Number 4 is Pride Merch. Number 5 is Halloween and all the things. Number 6 is Fantasmic. Number 7 is Doctor Strange and his show. Okay. Number 8 is Epcot drinking, especially on weekends. Okay. Number 9 is drinks at restaurants. And number 10 is Mr. Toad's. And that's all of them. Hopefully this wasn't too long. I know I cut it down from the first time. I explained a lot of the things better the first time, but yeah, let's just get it done. Have a great week. The entire video. I got through number 9. I was in the middle of number 9 when I realized that the microphone thing wasn't on the screen, and I was like, I'm like, do I turn it off? Do I not turn it off? Can I think of something funny to say?